got a fantastic pedigree as competitor over in Korea. And of course, his offside of Decay will be joining the Gladiators when he's old enough. Yeah. He's actually a couple of weeks out still, but as soon as he gets in that team, he'll be hot off the presses and fragging out. But these are your two teams here, Matt. You've got to say both teams have made some important changes to important parts of their lineups here. Let's have a look, though, at the maps, of course, presented by Toyota. A map starting off with Ilios today.
Yeah, and I think Ilios is a map where you could see some of the flexibility of a player like Hydration really come into play. They're a difficult team to game plan for the Gladiators, especially when you have two like oddly different like types of metas where we kind of see like teams running 3 tanks, 3 supports, or just running 4 DPS, right? Hydration can play so many different DPS heroes. You imagine he's worked on some of the tanks in the offseason to fit into some of these lineups. Shaz, who's your flex support player, we also saw him in the past, you know, play some Genji, play some Tracers. So I think the Gladiators have a lot of flexibility that should be pretty good for them in this match.
And we'll see us jump in, and in just a moment, I thought it was Ilios on the map pool, but we had locked in the pool there, yeah. So we'll have to see if that was incorrect or if I was just wrong. Tell me a little bit about how you think a player like Void fits into this Gladiators roster, right? And obviously with Fisher going out and the revolving door continuing to spin, Void now being the next man up to the plate.
Well, like Void's Zarya play was pretty strong last year. We saw him come in on a lot of the maps where they wanted some Zarya play over Bishu. I think as you see some of these, you know, really tank-heavy compositions in play, it gives them a little bit of flexibility. Play a very strong D.Va on top of Zarya, but it allows them to, you know, maybe play something that's a little more traditional, like a 2-2-2, play him on Zarya, you have Roar play some Reinhardt, and then you can get the 2 DPS, or they could put him on D.Va and then let Surefour pick up Zarya duty. So I think having Void in, I know it brings a little bit. Bishu can play Zarya, but I think Void's probably the Zarya they would go with, like if they were going to have one of those 2 players run it. So I think that's probably why you see him in the lineup.
So Roar, of course, you know, one of the new additions as well. I mean, do you feel like this tank line is a big upgrade? What does it look like compared to a tank line that featured Fisher prior?
Yeah, I mean, over Fisher we'll have to see. I think it could be a change of play style. Like when you have Fisher on the lineup, you know, speaking to a lot of, you know, the players and whatnot, you have to play around him, right? You know, you need some resources. Maybe, you know, Roar can play a different play style, allow them to change their game, play a little bit more, you know, an overall team game. I'm interested to see that from the Gladiators. So they try and just do what they did with Fissure and replicate it with Roar in the lineup, or they change things up completely.
And on the Soul side of things, of course, Fisher being a huge addition to this roster, Jexa was really vaunted for his shot-calling ability.
Yes.
You know, he was known being a very good tactical mind. Obviously, another Lucio option as well, with potential to, you know, go over towards that Mercy pick. Would it be required? We've already seen a little bit of that played today. Munchkin as well. Didn't really achieve the highest highs as a DPS player, excuse me. Definitely took a back seat somewhat to Fleta.
I mean, that was kind of their weakness at some points last year, Seoul Dynasty, right? Like, you had Munchkin and you had Wikid on the lineup. They couldn't really get a running mate to Fleta, and this is a very interesting lineup. So we're going to have Fleta playing Ashe. Fissure will play Wrecking Ball. You're going to have Michelle play Pharah, and you're going to run 2 supports here. So when you have a lineup like this, maybe you just run the solo heal Mercy, but Jaehong's going to jump on Ana.
Gladiators may not have been ready for this now. Fisher going to try and, well, put the hamster ball on it. It was Big Goose to fall first in this particular fight. Discord on it now, forced to back away, but Soul out of the gates with a heavy DPS composition here. The damage is real. Flatter up on that Ashe is always fun to see, but a very good start on. Again, we've talked about and we've seen today how a DPS-loaded composition or a lot of damage heroes can really punish these slower tank comps. Oh, Flatter, that wasn't intended. Big Goose already starts off with a double boot. Oh, he's back, no doubt about it.
Looking from Fleta's POV, you're just like, why the hell is he walking into the well? Yeah, you know, that play is going to swing the point in favor of the Gladiators. We can take a look at it from
Look at this rollout. Right at Lucio, let's go.
Yeah.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh, I need a shower. 10% for the Gladiators now to begin with, and now that one play really secured the fight. However,
we will have a Bob sighting.
Now, bear in mind, Ashe is the only hero in the game that can actually gain ultimate percent while she is using her ultimate. So Bob, she can actually accrue further ultimate percentage while that's going. So Fleta can have quite a few of these now. Bob's going to get caught out. Big knockdown. Everyone's happy to see the burly bodyguard now, and it forces a transcendence from the Gladiators.
He ain't doing much.
Yeah, they're just holding him down. What are you talking about?
Turn the other way, Bob.
Oh, he's pretty sprightly when he has somewhere else to be. There's no doubt about it. Dragon Strike now from the Soul Dynasty, and then catch Shaz. A minute. Headshot from Fleta, and a lot of damage is being offloaded here. doing the job so far. Don't doubt that for a second. Now Sound Barrier, Hydration almost knocked into the pit. Michelle now just has to keep them at arm's length for the time being, but Hydration may have been isolated.
Yeah, but it's just so much sustain here from the Gladiators that they're able to just keep kind of juggling on to the point, whether it's Big Goose, then you bring Hydration in on Brig, Surefour can jump in on Sombra. Roar's going to be able to use his Primal Rage here and stay alive for an even longer amount of time. I don't know how Seoul Dynasty is going to capture the point.
Flutter's in deep trouble here. Coach Gun will get him away from Roar. There's so much damage available from him, and Fisher just limps away. He's not having any of that. Again, plenty of damage. It's very flashy, this damage-heavy comp, but it didn't go to the Gladiators from the point.
The Gladiators are winning this point 83% to 0, and they're getting out-damaged by double by Seoul Dynasty. So obviously, you know, with the more DPS heroes, you're going to have that extra damage, but it's not resulting in any type of progress on the point.
Fisher just got mowed over there, that EMP coming through from Surefour. The timing was beautiful. However, Bob came out after, so he wasn't turned off by the EMP. Fisher back in the fight now. Michelle gets Void before he can get back into the mech. Nice bit of help there. Roar going down. That was going to be the rocket barrage, but Transcendence is going to keep the remainders of the Gladiators topped up, and they will stay alive for a while. Soul need to shift the rest of these players on the Gladiators before the rest of their teammates arrive, before they're reinforced, so to speak.
But this is fine if you're the Gladiators, Mitch, though, because you just keep extending this fight, and it makes Soul a little bit desperate to maybe invest some other ultimates into it. Soul takes the point, but now you're going to have the Rally coming back, a self-destruct, you're going to have Surefour getting close to EMP. You could combo like the EMP with the self-destruct, maybe connect with 1 or 2 players, right? Like, and then you can just steamroll onto the point.
Surefour hiding behind enemy lines currently. He will pop out and try and get that EMP as quickly as possible. He's obviously noted that Munchkin is playing for the high ground. So an early Dragon Strike going into the low rooms is going to force the Gladiators to split or diverge from their initial course. Michelle actually gets the nano boost here. Wants to hit these direct hits, and Chaz is very low, but still manages to get away. The Ana ult committed to the Pharah. Not a lot of result yet, but that's Big Goose out of the picture.
And Jaehong, you know, off screen does a tremendous job of staying alive. He actually, right after he uses the nano boost, he gets hacked, and then Roar jumps on him. He puts Roar to sleep, able to stay alive as Ana in the back. You know, an old school Jaehong pick as Surefour does take Michelle out. As they're going to use, okay, so they use the EMP and the self-destruct to block the point. Fisher has to jump in and he'd fall.
There's no choice but to feed himself to the beast. Flatter had a bomb, but he never chanced to really get much out of it. Bob taking down Surefour. Fantastic finish on that Sombra. And I'll tell you what, Matt.
Bob almost
very good.
Bob was contesting there at the end. He was trying his heart out. Just wasn't good enough.
Big love, by the way, to HPO for providing the monitors there on stage, specifically designed for the Overwatch League, by the way. They're not available yet, but they will be. I got to play on them yesterday in the takedown, and they were a treat.
I mean, even Hexagrams is able to kill people using those monitors.
Are you sure?
You know, yeah. Well, actually, I don't know. He's not your
perspective is a big thing here.
As far as I saw.
Great opening round, and you mentioned
Perspective is a big thing here.
Soul, we're doing
Great opening round,
the amount
and
of
you
damage.
mentioned
We're talking literally numerically double. We're
We're
talking
talking
literally and numerically double. They ended the round with about 22k to LA's, you know, 12k.
Yeah, I mean, both teams, you know, end up with 14 kills, 14 deaths, obviously. And, you know, Soul finishes with 21k damage. The LA Gladiators only with 12k. And they win that pretty convincingly, right? So, you see the DPS for Seoul Dynasty doing a nice job, putting the damage down. Not really finishing off players. You're able to stay alive so much with the 3 tanks and the Streets of Court. So, okay, so now you see a different variation of it from the Gladiators. So you bring in Shaz now to play Moira. That's going to be even harder to chunk through than it was when they were running the Zenyatta, because Moira provides just so much more healing in total.
Yeah, net healing definitely better. It really depends, though, if there's value out of the orbs gained. Soul still trying to play that heavy damage-based composition, but Jaehong just gets punched out.
But you're not worried about, the only time you're worried about those orbs when you're playing Moira is when there's a D.Va on the other side who's able to eat those orbs. You're not running the D.Va here for Seoul Dynasty, so you're going to get a ton of value out of it.
And the Gladiators are trying to play close together. Moira doesn't normally pair great with a front line that likes to dive or a team that wants to separate themselves a whole bunch. So Shaz can actually unlock the full potential of the mad scientist here. And Soul are going to make some changes of their own. Now, this is interesting. They take a Moira of their own, and they go to, again, a fairly heavy tank with free support composition, but with a twist, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you feel like you can get some extra healing, obviously, with the Moira of your own, but you could run you can run this in, and that's a ton of added damage that's not going to be matched by the Gladiators. So, Surefour just getting right up in Michelle's face with the hack
I mean,
there.
look,
There's
Soul
nothing
just
they could do.
ran headlong into that. I heard a shield bash come out very early with speed boost and all, but Big Goose was ready to redirect some of that traffic straight over the cliff.
I mean, the worst part about that fight for Seoul Dynasty is that the Gladiators don't use any of their ults, right? I mean, you make those switches, you don't gain really a ton of ult progress, so you're on outside of Fissure, but you're not forcing them to use any ult, so you can't kind of swap that ultimate economy game in your team's favor.
CP
EMP is going to be massive.
Trying to play up on the high ground. Here's that EMP. Fissure could not do anything yet again. 2 maps in a row, he's been targeted and pretty much taken down. The Gladiators say, yeah, we know you very well, Fissure. We know how you tick. We know how you tilt.
And you know as well, when you're playing the Moira with this comp for Seoul Dynasty, the Gladiators know you want to stay together because you need to get value out of all Moira's healing in an AoE spray in front of her. That it makes you an easy target to connect with everybody via EMP. Like, at least the Zen you can play far away, the EMP comes in and then you trance on in.
Again,
you can't do
Fissure's
that with this.
Last fight was an EMP. This time, it's just Shawfall. Oh, no! He was caught in the blast. There was no way he was going to get back to that one. Boyd gets himself 2 with a self-destruct and Flatter. He's over the edge. What a dominant performance from the Los Angeles Gladiators. And map 1 is done. Blink and you'll miss it.
Really strong start here from the LA Gladiators. Some nice switches. They opt to not go with, 3 tanks or supports after, really their first push onto that point. They have Surefour switch over to this Sombra, and the Dynasty had no answer for it.
You have to love to see that raw dominant as well on that round. More of the same after the break. Stay tuned. This is the Overwatch League.
The Overwatch League is powered by Intel. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Spirits are high here in the Blizzard Arena, especially amongst local fans. Hydration Man got himself an upgrade to his outfit, by the way. Better than the water bottle.
Water jugs.
Look, I mean, it's not going to work very well in combat, and this is definitely a brawl. The Gladiators feeling pretty good thus far, and so they should. Very quick first map there.
Yeah.
Ilios passing without too much incident. We did see the Seoul Dynasty. You could see a really favor trying to play some more of the damage dealer heavy compositions, but they just didn't cut the mustard.
I mean, look, they were dealing the damage. They just weren't finishing the kills, or they weren't making any progress on the
So
objective.
it's like the guy in ranked who's like, I have gold damage, and you're just getting completely robbed.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I know you. Oh, we're doing so much damage. Who's not killing anybody? It's like, yeah, it's that. It's like, so now we go over to King's Row. I think they could run some of that 4 DPS again. And I think they can actually probably do it on offense and be a little bit more effective than what they were. I think you can use some of the high ground here on King's Row, especially like Wrecking Ball swinging off that the mid statue, right, on offense. Like, that's pretty devastating.
Well,
I'd be looking to see if they bring that out again.
Really helpful to get Wrecking Ball into the backlines without having to really
Just
conspicuously
roll on
roll up, be like, hey, let me kill your backline, fam. What about it?
Yeah, what's up?
Interesting as well, the Gladiators have, while they have been playing sort of 2 tanks, they've actually had Shawfall on the Sombra quite a lot. So they haven't been playing, you know, like a completely stacked out tank line. And that Sombra has been giving them a huge amount of value, especially against Fisher. Fisher's getting hacked, EMP'd. Every time he tries to walk in, he's getting booped out, taken down by self-destruct because he can't move.
I mean, that's kind of the answer to a really strong Wrecking Ball, right? As soon as they drop in, they land the big slam, they think they're going to do a ton, they get hacked and they get bashed by a Brig and they can't get out. So, I mean, you see the Gladiators kind of playing that perfectly. So, we'll see Seoul Dynasty here on offense to kick
King's Row, by the way.
It is King's Row, yeah. I mean, we did talk a little bit here. It is King's Row, but I know they're going to be running 3 supports. Michelle playing Sombra here, and then you're going to have Fleta playing Zarya. I wonder if they stay up. It's like
this is
like
the mirror.
Yeah.
Surefour now getting a good idea of exactly what they're playing. Oh, the Ana for Jaehong. That's very interesting, but Michelle just goes down very quickly. Must have been scattered out.
But I wonder, though, is it a mirror just to mirror, or is it something that they've kind of really worked on? Because, you know the Gladiators have had these strategies, I mean, all during World Cup, you know, for Team Canada, right? We talked about how strong of a Sombra.
Well, this Ana pick is surely this Ana pick is interesting as a point of difference, right? From Jaehong. You don't have a Zen, maybe you don't feel like you need him because there are only 2 tanks on the side of the Gladiators. Maybe you fancy.
But now you really lack the damage. I mean, you gain like if they hack, I guess, like the Ryan Shield, you can get like a big nade. But you just lack the damage to finish players off.
Oh, very cute. Jexa.
Nice play.
We know him as aggressive Lucio, and he picks off Surefour straight away. Enough to really force the Gladiators off the point tail between their legs. I suppose Seoul are really living for those moments where Jaehong could set up a big body grenade. If you're not hitting those, the Ana pick is a little bit hard to justify outside of a nano boost onto your Reinhardt. Here's a re-engage. The Gladiators come back in for a fight. Chaz immediately goes for the Transcendence. Fisher has the aforementioned nano boost here. Can't do too much with it with so much healing available for the Gladiators, but there is an Earth Shatter. So he'll just try and chill for a moment. Goes for it now. Gets very little for that one. The shield was in the way. Raw protecting his team well, but it's not really going to matter. Fisher comes through the fire strike, and Chaz has to limp onto the point and face his destiny.
And Void ends up using his grab there towards the end, and like right as he uses the grab, Soul unlocks the point. So you don't really get anything out of that. And because you use the grab and you just take the point, there's no reason for Soul to invest any support ultimates in that. So they hold on to their sound barrier, they hold on to their rally. I was a little bit like, maybe you could have set up, you know, Fissure with that Shatter a bit better. You could have gotten like the hack or the EMP, but they actually got the hack onto Hydration and not Roar. So maybe that's what they were trying to do, just hack the wrong person though.
Despite the Shadow not really connecting, it still went well for Seoul. Surefour has an EMP, though he does manage to let it go here. A lot of members of Seoul affected by that one. Big Goose playing around the corner, but the sound barrier still came out from Seoul. Jexa still managed to make that one work, and they can still push on. What should have been a crippling ultimate to Seoul was merely deflected. Jexa did a great job keeping his team up through that one. There was a responding EMP from Michelle just to really drive the point home.
You know, when you're trying to land the EMP in this part of the map, it's very difficult to connect with everybody. Like, there's a lot of different areas where the supports can hide, and Surefour just not able to connect with the supports that had ultimates there. So, didn't really get a ton for that. The Gladiators make some changes. Void now will play D.Va. Surefour is going to play Zarya. So you're going to see, you know, a traditional 3-tank-3 support out of the Gladiators.
Earth Shatter here for Raw. Trying to break line of sight behind the payload is to not take too much poke damage. He wants to go forward. The rest of his team are there, but Seoul sniffed it out pretty quickly. Took a huge backstep. Obviously, you know, the Lucio role in fights like this is so important, Matt. Being able to disengage when you don't fancy yourself in a fight. And now, re-engage when you want to go again.
It's going to be the nano boost here on a Fissure, and he's got a Shatter to work with. That'll be the Transcendence out of Shaz. You're just trying to line this up. There's going to be the big grab. It's going to be a sound barrier that comes in from the Gladiators, so keeping some players alive. They're not enough, though, to keep Hydration up.
Huge punishment. Raw got hacked manually during that fight by Michelle. No shielding available, and no one likes a little bit of a bloodbath more than Jexa by the looks of things. Seoul are traveling much better on this map, especially when, you know, these two teams are forced to essentially mirror, you know, tank and support heavy compositions. Seoul are happy enough with this Sombra presence, especially with an EMP around the corner, to stay this course and not pick up the D.Va.
And it's interesting, you know, a lot of the teams, they've talked about how, you know, the Zen version of the 3-tank-3 support has been much more effective than, like, having Ana in the mix. And Seoul, pretty much until now, just runs Ana throughout the whole map. Now we get the Zen here towards the end.
That was so big. Oh, what a nasty EMP from Michelle. Everyone gets lit up like a Christmas tree.
You can't do anything about that. I mean, literally, you lose your ability.
You genuinely, literally can't do anything about that. You can walk. You can walk. You can dodge. You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge ultimates. Flutter and Munchkin here set up on the side halls just to get an idea of which side the Gladiators are going to be pushing out from. Surefall has a Graviton here, and it's going to have to be a good one. There is no D.Va on the side of Soul right now, so he doesn't have to worry too much about it getting eaten up. He needs the placement to be good, and it is. Pushing forward now, Flutter and Fisher very low, Raw charges through. And that's what the Gladiators need. The grab is always going to be extra effective against this particular comp Soul are running.
I mean, you do use your rally there for Soul Dynasty, but you're going to have Sound Barrier rally for the next fight, and you know that they do not have grabs, so you can kind of try and muscle your way on through, force the transcendence of the other team, but most likely Big Goose will end up getting Sound Barrier during this fight. So you'll have all three support ultimates here. If you're Soul, maybe you try and just kind of like drive push on in, maybe use the Shatter, force the support ulters you out, and then you have the grab to come back of your own.
Or if you can Shatter to, potentially stop a support ult before it happens, pick off that support, you're very happy. Raw shield is out, he's got to go forward. Doesn't work out, the timing's not there for the Gladiators. They had to get aggressive there, but Soul read them like an absolute book. Michelle wants to go in, EMP, yep. That's going to be nasty, and the Earth Shadow to back up from Fisher. A lot of ultimates being committed. That's the pin on Hydration, though, and the Graviton to come out. 4 big ultimates from Soul, but it gets the job done, and they have 2 support ultimates for the last fight, Matt.
It's kind of exactly what I was talking about. They use a bunch of ultimates, they force the ultimates out of the Gladiators. The EMP forces trance. Once the trance wears off, the Graviton Surge is there from Flood, and they pick up the kills.
Into stall now as Hydration desperately throws himself at the point, getting a heck of a lot of shielding. Considering the whole enemy team was standing around him, that's how it works. Fisher goes for that Earth Shatter, knocking Hydration to the ground. Now into the fray comes the rest of Soul, and Jexa had the Sound Barrier saved up, but just this moment, Big Goose knocked away, and that'll be it.
Really strong offense there from Soul Dynasty. Really impressive to see how they, bounced back after that really rough map number 1. Came back to storm through this map here on Kings Row. We'll see you right after this quick commercial break with the second half of Kings Row.
One minute and 42 seconds. That's the amount of time the Soul Dynasty have left in the bank after finishing Kings Row map. It actually seemed pretty smooth for them. Jaehong didn't even die on that round at all.
I mean, they only have 6 deaths total.
And that was on the attacking side, mind you.
The Sombra play was just unbelievable. I mean, from Michelle, right? Connecting with an average of 3 players per EMP. The EMP is great, obviously, to pick up kills off of combo, but also like force support ultimates out. It allows you much more value out of Graviton Surges at that point.
And again, the Gladiators may opt to go for a composition that we just don't do it, Tasumi. Don't do it to me!
All right.
Is it?
Yeah, why
At
not?
the Symmetra, okay. I've seen everything. I never want to go back to the old timeline.
So,
okay.
so if you haven't seen Symmetra in a bit, kit's changed a bit. So You can throw the turrets out now, and you still only have 3. The teleporter moves from an ultimate, as you see here, to an actual ability, so you can send everybody on through. And then her ultimate builds up a huge photon barrier, which, you know, blocks so much damage, and it creates such a difficult thing for the opposing team to deal with.
Most importantly, Symmetra's primary fire no longer locks onto targets as a straight beam, but it really ramps up in power and, of course, can gain ammunition from shields, which there are a lot of right here. So here's the play. The Gladiators get onto the point. They kind of do a bit of a rope-a-dope with the Seoul Dynasty, but they still lose big goose early in the fight, and they're looking worse for wear health-wise. Void's down, Hydration's missing. Raw's not looking great either. So this may not have worked out for Seoul, for the Gladiators.
Yeah, so to talk a little bit about what you were talking about, when Surefour aims at Fissure's Reinhardt shield and just aims at it, puts down primary fire, it will increase in energy, and he'll also gain some ammo back. So you kind of almost have like 2 Zaryas out on the field, except like Surefour can get charged up much faster. So you see, that's going to be this Sim ultimate, so that's the photon barrier as they push onto the point.
I mean, look how powerful it is. The Seoul Dynasty, if they want to interact with the Gladiators at all, they have to step forward. They might just be forced to wait this out or wait for Fissure, and that seems to have been the plan. Fissure comes in, gets his Zarya bubble pretty much instantly, but there's a Transcendence in over the fight. Jayhong responds, gets one of his own. Fissure's down, tank battle won by the Gladiators. Now the charge on out, and well, look at Jayhong being forced away from his team. They can't benefit from the healing. Fleta falls flat as the charge connects, and Jayhong's all alone. The Gladiators, the Symmetra play, the dream is real.
I mean, to give you an idea of what the photon barrier does there, I mean, it blocks about 2,200 damage. So that's a pretty high impact ultimate there. Especially if like you were stuck in like a Graviton Surge, let's say, you can use it to like split the Grav in half and potentially block. It probably deters Fleta from using his Graviton Surge.
You can still shoot. You can still barrier.
Well, you can also teleport out of the Grav as well, so you can get players out in that situation.
That one-way barrier really nasty for Seoul to deal with now. And they come into this next fight with a few more key ultimates the Dynasty do. Obviously, Graviton Shatter is also there. Sound barrier. Here's another Photon Wall now as well as they push forward. Graviton Surge. Surefour might not be able to survive this one. He's focused down pretty quickly, and it is very pretty to look at. But on this stage of the map, it might not be what the Doctor ordered.
Do we see a switch? I think the fans would say no. I think his teammates probably would say yes, but...
Tasumi is for the fans.
Yep.
However, it'll be somewhere this time. Interesting. Grab as the Dynasty
Really early.
push very close forward. This self-destruct could be nasty. Raw has the shield up pretty quickly. The Gladiators aren't affected by it, so that's all hunky-dory. However, they get nothing with the grab either. Void was hoping to sort of catch them unaware, but now they can almost outmaneuver Seoul as they move to the payload through this choke. This is a bit scary once they fan out from the choke. That's a nice hack though. Raw goes down instantly. That's the Transcendence.
Yeah, I mean, the Gladiators were able to gain a little bit of an ultimate advantage because of that fight. The Transcendence is now gone, and boy, do you see how charged he is up on that Zarya at 100%. Now building up towards another Graviton Surge. As he's in an awkward position though. They have to back on out well, as I say, they have to back on out. They ain't going nowhere. They're stuck in a grab of their own. Fleta lays it down. They pick up the rest of the kills.
So we're seeing these fights occurring in sort of strange locations and ultimates being committed that you otherwise wouldn't expect. But when you are playing 2 compositions that are, playing triple tank, triple support, or some variation of it, maybe the Sombra's in the mix, you do need to try and catch the enemy team by surprise, force ultimates at them, or just get a cheeky first pick off. Get that player advantage, and then sort of snowball that in your favor.
That's a rally. Use the push on forward. That'll be the grab that comes in from Void. See, a few members from Seoul Dynasty caught up inside of it. No follow-up there from the Gladiators. You see all the pressure coming out from Seoul Dynasty, picking up these kills. I know, but we've been talking and like watching this game, and like it may seem a little bit like, back and forth. It's really not. I think it's just because the fights end up lasting so long, it kind of gives you that like false illusion that it is a little bit
Seoul
closer.
has been very comfortable.
Yeah, the Gladiators have 9 kills to 52 deaths. That's not good. Don't know if I really need to break that one down for you. Getting past the 10 kill mark would be ideal, but is Seoul just playing that good right now?
EMP for Surefour has to come out before Jayhong gets his Transcendence. Jayhong's going to be playing very safe right now to make sure that he doesn't get hacked. He needs to be able to use this ultimate. Jexa may not have his for this fight. Here's a rally that normally heralds the start of the fight, and the Transcendence comes out before the EMP. Nice work by Jayhong. He has to have an itchy trigger finger in cases like this. and he does a good job to keep his team up, but Fisher, nothing can save him from that onslaught. Knocked up, pinned against the wall, the burst damage too strong, and Fleta follows soon after. The Gladiators are finally getting some traction, but they've lost so much time already, Matt.
I know, and the timing there for Jaehong has to be perfect, which it was. Just still not good enough to save some teammates there from falling, but he'll switch off of Zen after using Trance to go to Ana. So you think maybe for this last fight you gain a huge advantage in terms of using that biotic grenade. You know there's no D.Va on the other side. You're not going to build up towards that Trance in the 40 seconds, so you may as well get some value with a sleep and a nade.
Graviton straight away. Shorefall was lurking behind the Soul lineup, but he doesn't get it in time. Look at that bio nade, it's so nasty. Oh, everyone from the Gladiators have to back away as quickly as they can. Fisher just tries to throw a shatter in, but guess what? Rawls was just a bit better. He gets the charge in now, and that's an EMP just to make things even worse for Soul. It's a tough fight for them to hold on. And they've lost Munchkin. Raw has to take his time though. The Gladiators took so much damage in those first engagements that they have to play this slow. Self-destruct into the back, it finds very little. That would have been the release valve for Soul in that fight. Fisher finds a very aggressive kill on Void, and this might be happening. He gets a second, rolls down, Fleta gets himself two as well, and that is unbelievable. That Soul could come back in a fight where they were so far behind, but they've done it anyway. And the defense holds strong. Map number 2, Soul Dynasty.
Really nice switch from Jaehong at the end there to go to Ana. Knew most likely as they see Fisher. He's still not, look, he does not look happy after map number 1.
All these flavors, Fisher. You choose salty, bruh.
See a much different Soul Dynasty in map number 2.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. High ground or low ground, T-Mobile has you covered. And by State Farm. Whatever life brings your way, State Farm is here to help life go right.
This first day of 2019 season is living up to the hype so far. We got a close one here with the Gladiators and Dynasty all knotted up at 1 apiece coming into the half. Oh, that's so beautiful. You gotta love seeing it. Welcome back to the Blizz Arena. How are you doing out here? Everybody still with me? We are halfway through our third map of the day. It's Puckett and you know the boys. I got Semler, I got Hex, and we got so many games to break down. I'm even talking like Semler right now. It's excellent. Semler, we got to look back to game number 1, though, because Gladiators are going up against their former main tank in Fissure, and right away, these guys came to play.
Yes, the Gladiators looked fantastic going into it. It actually kind of made me doubt my prediction a little bit. I got a little worried there, especially because Hex and I went head-to-head. But the Gladiators looked absolutely fantastic. Everything just clinched together for them. Ilios was their show.
I mean, the goose was loose. His big goose starting right away. It looked really cool from Soul right off the bat. They're running an unorthodox strategy. You got the Bob fans. The arena went nuts for Bob here.
Poor guy.
Take a nap, take a nap.
But it was
Shut
his
down.
big goose on this giant rotation, gets boobs, then Shore 4 with the somber cleanup. I mean, Shore 4 plays everything. It never ceases to amaze me.
I did love seeing DPS heroes, damage dealers in the game. Props to both teams here. Well, a pretty unique play coming back and forth, but that Void 2K really set up the Gladiators to lock up our first map of the matchup. Now, as we saw everyone performing well for the Gladiators on our first map, the same story could be said for the Dynasty going in the second one. It all started with Fleta here in this big grab.
But Fleta just plays everything, and you can't underestimate how good this guy is. And it's going to be those traditional damage dealers who have to move over to the Zarya. And it was really interesting because Soul showed some prowess on non-3-3, and they showed some good 3-3 on Kings.
Yeah, that's the thing going into it, though, is that we're seeing just how well teams have to play if they're not going to run 3-3. They have to play perfectly, and that just wasn't capable. They weren't capable at this time, Soul, but perhaps with some more practice, they can get it to work for them.
That is such a beautiful shatter, and we saw so many shatters in this game. Great defense, major props to the support players keeping their teams alive through those big moments. But when we're not looking at the ultimates, we're looking at compositions, right? We want to see what the teams were running. And I asked Hex, what is Soul doing right now? This is your insights powered by Intel. Hex, walk us through this one.
Well, this is going to be very early on the first stage of Ilios, and while the star of the show may early on been Bob, it's all about this Hammond play. Right here, you've got Fissure hanging out on top of the building as Hammond, and meanwhile, all of the Gladiators are burning, so they need to push through this area. He is going to push them forward. They want to engage this way. Meanwhile, Fissure is going to wait for them to come through, really start to disrupt. That's what Hammond is so good at, is disrupting the enemy team. And then it doesn't even matter he's in the thick of things, just bails out on the other side. It really screws up your game plan. Everyone's got a plan until they get hamstered in the face. Drops down, you got two healers back there, and now they're both busy. It leads to the first kill on the Lucio there, and this is hit from his point of view. Hanging out up top, you're actually going to see a Sonic Arrow come through for the extra information, cut the team in half, and then you know what? You think you have me? Later, I'm out of here able to disengage. Meanwhile, the Discord orb is being used on him, so he's taking up valuable resources, comes in, looks for another target, actually swings away and gets himself back in a position to do it all again.
Unfortunately, Soul didn't win the map, but they showed us some new stuff, and that's something to get excited about if you're a Dynasty fan at home. Fellas, that's going to do it for halftime, but for everyone at home, make sure you go over to twitch.tv and get your all-access pass for 2019. It comes with all sorts of stuff, like the 200 Overwatch League tokens, and of course, a 20% discount on our gear store. Just head on over, get yourself the all-access pass. You're going to be using it all year long. Guys, give it up one more time here in the Blizzard Arena. Soul Gladiators continues on the other side of this break.
They don't just play for a team. They play for every fan, every rival, every moment, every match. And when everyone watching expects the best, they perform with the best.
Well, it wouldn't be a classic grudge match or rivalry without a very back-and-forth series so far. It's one apiece here between the Los Angeles Gladiators and the Seoul Dynasty. And Matt, Seoul looked like a completely different team in map 2 on Kings Row as they did in map 1.
You know, we saw some of the player reaction shots, and you saw Fissure on stage, and he didn't look happy. And Sometimes you just need a player like that who's just kind of
Not satisfied with like mediocrity kind of thing.
Yeah,
What more?
dude's just gonna fire everybody up. Like, you think he wants to lose to his former team, like how they went down in map number 1? Like,
Probably not.
he ain't going down like that, right? So, like, he probably told the rest of the team, like, yo, step it up. Like, come on, like, let's get things going.
Well,
They looked great in map 2.
I mean, we're going to head into Ryzen now for map number 3. It's often the players, you know, with the highest expectations of themselves that also have high expectations of their teammates. We know that Fisher is that kind of person.
Yeah.
And that's why this Seoul Dynasty team is touted to be so much stronger now. Is this? It's not another Greg Bamboozle, right? They're just saying... Okay, hydration scouting, so they can change their team composition early. So he was actually often about looking at what Seoul were playing, and now they know they want to play pretty standard composition here, Matt. 3 tanks, 3 supports.
It's just a matter of where they decide to attack from. Like, you rotate all around the left-hand side and go to the point, or you kind of go right underneath Seoul, and then at that point, it's what does Seoul decide to do. So, see where the Gladiators opting to go. Now they go underneath Seoul, so what is Seoul's reaction? Do they go back to the staircase behind them? Do they go all the way across? Looks like they're a little bit undecided, so
Yeah.
the Gladiators will take the point. Now it puts Seoul in a tough position to just jump on down.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fine. They leave no one up above, but the Gladiators now trying to go for a bit of a debate. They head onto the high ground themselves. They're like, well, you don't want to play here? We sure do. Then they drop down. A lot of positioning here. Very nuanced play, but the splatter that used to be short floor is anything but. Now Munchkin's going to push forward, and Raw is going to go down early. Gladiators lose the first play here, and doesn't herald success in this fight for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would assume that Sherpur probably thought they were going to get pretty aggressive there, because they actually did force Seoul Dynasty into a pretty tough position, like in between that staircase. Like, they weren't fully up the staircase, they were right off the point. They were kind of stuck where Void is stuck right now. Is Void probably, yeah, he's going to die.
Hey, Raw still did more damage than Fisher in that fight. Was able to sort of build up towards his shadow a little bit quicker. Obviously, if you look at the screen, the Gladiators are actually on the attacking side, not defending. So those little icons will be switched for you in just a moment to make that clear.
So Jaehong already built up to a Transcendence. Same with Shaz here in these first fights. So see the Zenyatta damage that just comes down. Like, especially with all these tanks, the Discords, the damage amplified. Like, Zen can just do so much. Transcendence out early here from Shaz. They might try and get aggressive here just to try and force Jaehong's out, which he doesn't. He holds on to it. Very nice. Now they're going to use Jaehong's trance to push on through. They use the Shatter as well.
That's perfect. That is just, that's perfect from Seoul. Nerves of Steel, they see the Gladiators running at them full tilt with Transcendence. They say, we have enough room in between us and them right now to get Jexa to hit a speed boost. We're going to back off. They do that and they say, guess what? We had our ultimate. We were saving it. And they managed to get that value out of it, especially after the speed boost had already been used by the Gladiators, so they couldn't get away.
You see this from Fisher's POV. Charge into the Shatter. He connects the few players, but yeah, that's where, you know, Lucio can enable you to get out of so many tough situations, and you need him in these comps because obviously the tanks are rather slow. So, you know, Lucio having that speed boost available at times and being able to amp it up, huge.
Here come the Gladiators once more, but not pushing onto the point quite yet. Atlanta says, okay, you want to hang around? I'll hit you with a Graviton Surge. Void, cheeky, tries to drop a self-destruct in the backside, but it was too much shielding, and he goes down to Michelle's self-destruct. 1-for-1 trade now as Flatter is fallen. Big Goose gets the big boot, and now Raw wants to push ahead. He gets himself a barrier, and he's going to be very happy to play aggressively with that one. Sureforce sets him up nicely. The kills aren't there for the Gladiators. They will need to finish this fight properly, or Seoul will be able to regroup and push back, just like now.
Yeah, they have a Transcendence. Seoul should fight this, which they get right onto the point. Roar gets low. He'll die to the Fire Strike there. Fissure takes him out. Fissure just goes on through, man. And you know what? We've talked a little bit, and we've shown some, you know, Fissures or Shatters. I feel like every time we've seen Roar line one up, it's just been blocked. They have not been able to land one of those big Shatters.
Look, Raw got unfortunate as well. As soon as the Transcendence came out from Fisher, from Jaehong, he charges at the wall. He sort of, I don't think he lines it up well, so he actually just charges straight at the wall and doesn't gain any distance. That puts him out of the fight for a bit, makes it easy for Fisher to do the same back to him. Last chance saloon for the Gunslingers on the Gladiators now. They must make contact with this point. They've got 2 ticks and a little bit more. They're not quite done yet. Pushing in, getting flattered first is a pretty good start, but the Earth Shadow is going to make it a little bit hard. Void doesn't stay in his spec. He is knocked out. Fisher deals with that one, but the Gladiators have the numbers here, and they're putting pressure on Seoul now to respond. Raw, Earth Shadow. He needs to connect this one. Another unsuccessful charge, and he has no chance to use it once again. Raw is nullified. Positioning just wasn't there for him. Self-destruct for Seoul doesn't find anything, but the Transcendence is definitely helping. going to pay dividends if they can keep this roster up and standing. Fisher getting pressured by multiple players in the back corner, and Michelle is just trying to peel some of those players away from him. Hydration is low, but Fisher's down. It's a 1-for-1 once again, but the Gladiators aren't on the points. Seoul Dynasty managed to hold on. There were 4 Gladiators players still alive and part of the fight. A bit of a Charlie Niner, perhaps, Matt.
And those are really tough fights to lose there for the Gladiators. You lose that fight, not able to do much of anything there. We will see you right after this commercial break.
And they showed up to game day with plenty of fuel in the tank, but the Gladiators barely leave a scratch on the bastion that is the Seoul Dynasty on that first attack here on Horizon Lunar Colony. Matt, wasn't what they were looking for at all.
Yeah, you could. I can see actually from our caster perch here. All the faces of the Gladiators are just like drained, and everybody on Seoul like just jumps up in excitement, man. And that's just great to see there if you're a Seoul Dynasty fan.
A big welcome as well to our audience over on Disney XD. You've joined us in quite an interesting situation. Map number 3 in this series between Seoul Dynasty and the Los Angeles Gladiators. The Gladiators just failed to capture the first point on their attack, which means that all Seoul need to do is capture that point A. It could be pretty simple for them now, unless the Gladiators put up quite a staunch resistance.
Seoul Dynasty's attack on King's Row in the previous map was very strong. We'll see how they go here on Horizon Lunar Colony. Is Fleta now, you see him playing Sim. Fissure will be playing Wrecking Ball, so changes now coming in across the board. As they'll have okay, Ryan, so you're gonna have Ryan Zarya, and then you're gonna have Michelle here playing Reaper. So you're gonna bring Reaper into the mix, very strong against tanks. You just need to get him into a good position. That's the toughest part with Reaper, is the mobility issue.
Michelle's already showing himself to be quite a flexible individual.
Yeah.
Many of us expected him to come and be playing that diva role primarily, but even over Fleta, he's the player that they're wanting to try out some of these DPSs, and now
It's like,
he's
what do
so
we do?
quiet. Now it's about to get real loud, real fast as the Dynasty trying to push onto that high ground. Munchkin, oh, he gets caught off. He is down. Seoul did not want to let their Brigitte player get sort of cut off the rest of him, but what do you do when he gets booped and
Yeah, this is
away?
the definition of bad positioning. So now you're just kind of stuck out here in outer space with like 2 doors to go through.
Besides the
You've
fact
lost
that
your brig.
you can't breathe.
Yeah.
Well,
And, okay, so now we're going back to the original plan. Now we're going back the other way.
So
Okay.
go to where the oxygen is.
Yeah. Well, they need to go back because you need to get Munchkin back in the mix, right? So
He has returned to the
yep.
fray. But they still want to go outside.
We're
They
doing
still
it
want to
again.
chill in space. All right, I feel this. So again, they are really adamant about pushing from the outside, which is not a common strategy, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. It kind of puts you at a disadvantage. Raw says, no, I'm going to send them straight back out the airlock. It's like a grisly death in every space movie ever.
no way.
Oh, Raw's getting all the credit for those as well, because he hit him with the final, with the Primal Rage. Excuse me. Looks really good on the kill feed, but in all honesty, Seoul Dynasty just went for a space now. They got cryogenically frozen. They'll be back in the next arc of this anime. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, when you saw Jaehong with the coalescence in every trailer last year, that'll be the one you see this year.
Oh, when he was hosing them down. I got
Yeah,
my
no, that'll be this year's.
Yeah, so this is definitely worth a replay, not. They get knocked around. This is what you see from the outside. And, you see, in space, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing to slow you down. So you'll keep going at the same speed forever, unless you hit something. And the
You
odds
went
of that
to,
happening are very
school
low.
for something with Adders.
No, I don't know. Everyone knows that, though, Matt. Come on. Michelle up on the high ground here. Again, the Reaper is still looking to find his mark on some of these big and bulky tanks and really get value. Otherwise, he's kind of vulnerable. If he gets stunned before he can sort of, dash away like an edgelord, like fade into the wisps of darkness, that'll be a problem.
They only need to win one fight. And I mean, if you get the Reaper in position to take out, let's say, Roar playing Winston, you're in a good spot. All the ultimates being used here. Both use the Transcendence. There goes Roar. That's the big kill you needed for Soul.
Two Graviton Surges, neither actually really find their mark, but it does hold Roar in place for Michelle to go to town on him with those Hellfire shotguns. Nara returns to the point. The fight pretty much over here. There's 3 players left for the Gladiators, and they're essentially looking around like confused Travolta right now. They don't know how to get back onto the point. Michelle is a very fearsome prospect, and especially if he's sort of hunting. So they're trying to stall this out. Just take a bit more time off the clock, but it's not going to matter because they didn't catch a point A. So they need to stop them completely. And there it is. The Backstreet Boy remix, die. Void going down to Flatter, and Gladiators have no choice but to throw themselves at this now, Matt. It's here or it's never.
And I mean, they're just trying to extend this as long as possible. Void knocked off the point. That'll be it. Soul Dynasty takes the map.
This is what happens when you come out on the attacking side, as the Gladiators did, and don't make a mark on point A. If you fail to make any progress through the map, it makes it much easier for opponents to eclipse your performance. And that is all that's required. Perhaps a smile on the face of Fisher is hard to say, but he's got to be a little bit happier with that one. Quite some shenanigans in that particular map. We've got one more just around the corner. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen.
The Overwatch League is powered by Intel. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
In our inaugural season of the Overwatch League, the Los Angeles Gladiators were one of the strongest teams in the Pacific Division, with some of the strongest fans, as you can see. Hydration Man there, throwing out some shapes. Only the best shapes. They almost made playoffs, right? The Gladiators did. They fell to the Spitfire, and the Spitfire were on this huge resurgence. I just had to watch it.
I had to.
It was mesmerizing.
It's either I turn around or I look down that way to see.
Conversely, though, Soul were not as impressive. This does not look like the strength of the Gladiators we saw last year, or, again, conversely, it does look like Soul's just coming out much stronger in this season.
Well, that's the thing. Obviously so early in the season, all you kind of have to base is like scrims up until this point. As I know, potentially the final map in the series will be Route 66. I know if the Gladiators win it, obviously we'll have a tiebreaker map. But you look at these two teams and you're like, well, is Soul just kind of, you don't even want to say Soul's overperforming or, performing better than we expected, because you look at this lineup and you expect them to play like this, right? It's just whether, like, you know, they really just kind of have the Gladiators number today. You know, maybe Gladiators, you know, you would have seen Bishu come in a little bit more, but Void playing tonight.
Yeah, my understanding is Bishu's actually not well today, is what I've seen on the Twitter of Gladiators. So sending him well wishes.
It's a big unlucky.
Yeah, the Gladiator's definitely feeling a little bit beleaguered without his presence and leadership right now. So they take a peek out. They see they're playing Bastion. Oh God, they're playing Bastion. So now we need to see an adjustment for the Gladiators now to sort of deal with this guy. Bastion, I mean, you've probably seen him, you've probably played, in fact, he's in all ranks, to be honest, people just play him. Obviously doesn't move a lot, but does a heck of a lot of damage and really needs to be dealt with. So the Gladiators are coming out with what I'd call a fairly mobile composition, right? A lot of heroes that can sort of peek up and back away, and Hydration can take to the skies and avoid that torrent of bullets.
And the hometown crowd here trying to get behind the Gladiators. Give them any type of, you know, positive vibes. As you see, ooh, the halt comes in, almost ends up killing Hydration there as Jaehong's getting really low. And see Michelle come in, just body block some rockets, probably keeps Jaehong alive.
Yeah, I mean, Jaehong, that's the only reason he's still standing. Hydration gets so much damage, he's almost built up his barrage already. 48% of the Gladiators' damage has been dealt by Hydration thus far. Again, it's like we saw in the previous games, like we saw in map 1. It doesn't matter if you do a bunch of damage, you need to secure kills. That's what Soul failed to do on Ilios, and that's what the Gladiators haven't done yet here.
And I know Bastion now is obviously more deadly as he fires. That'll be the Dragon Strike that comes out from Sherfor.
He ramps up.
Yeah, and you know, his damage gets more accurate. You know, his gun gets more accurate the more he shoots. This will be tank mode, as this can be quite deadly. As Jaehong trying to heal himself up. Oh, okay. He's just going for clips at this point.
Now, obviously, the projectiles that he fires in tank configuration have a distinct travel time. They drop. This could be nasty though. Barrage coming in, Hydration is shut down immediately low, and that's how you respond. You send your D.Va up, say, Michelle, look, you may die in doing so, but you avoid us from getting completely wiped. Michelle was still standing. Hannah's found Short now. With Hydration coming back to the fight, the Gladiators still don't have enough to go on with. The Bastion strat, I hate to say it, is working.
And I mean, look how much health he has now with the rally on top. So it's going to be very difficult to just try and... Because what do? You don't want to play like a traditional dive against this, because you still have the Brigand play for Soul Dynasty, right? So you have Jaehong set up there, just standing there with Fissure. You know, Fissure, you see, he just keeps launching the shields up in the sky as Munchkin makes a change over to Widowmaker to try and counter the Pharah.
But what a perfect situation now. He can do so much work against Hydration. Hydration has to respect the Widow pick so much. But Chaz deals with Flutter up on the high ground, and Raw's on a mission now. We're looking to crunch the Widow. They found Munchkin pretty comfortably here, and perhaps a lot of theatrics for what was a very simple assassination job, but that's fine.
Changes are going to come here for Soul Dynasty, though. You're not going to play this in stage 2 of the map. So, okay, so they're going to opt to play... nope. Jaehong switches over from Ana over to Zenyatta. So you'll have those 3 tanks, those 3 supports. You're going to run Winston here instead of Reinhardt. Hear that ultimate come out from Sherfor. Just going to chuck it out because he's going to go back to spawn and change.
Yeah, that ultimate probably wasn't even fired in the direction of the Dynasty. But I mean, I guess, look, I guess you could... it has some psychological impact, I suppose.
They're gonna try Reaper as well. So, you know, I think teams are either really believing that Reaper can be a difference maker against these tanks, or they just kind of write it off completely. But
or at least not a liability. You know, we saw Michelle get good value out of it on Horizon Lunar Colony. But there are plenty of ways to sort of sneak around behind your enemy team.
I think in a situation like that, though, you can run Reaper, where you just have to take point A. You know the fight is played in a really controlled area. Like when it's this large and there's so much area to roam around, I don't know if this is where you run Reaper and they switch off of it right away.
They take to the high ground, the Gladiators, so they back up completely, and they opt to go the long way around and fight over the bridge here. Shaz in a position now where he really needs to try and shut down the enemy tank. Fissure is alive and Raw is not, which means that he's become endangered species awfully fast. Shaz, the Transcendence, but who to use it on? Lost their main tank.
You have to back out. I mean, as soon as you lose Roar and you have no shield, the Discords are just going to come flying. The speed boost is going to come in from Soul Dynasty. They're just going to run you over.
A lot of expectation on the Gladiators this season, man. They were expected to be top 4 by many, including myself. Not a great series from them so far. Here's the Graviton Surge. Shawforce taken down by the pin. He was held in place. Fissure got to find his kill. Hydration knocked back. Raw is really just trying to stand tall here, but they're getting run over by Fissure. If you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. He loves to play aggressive. He loves it when these fights break down. Here's a Reinhardt, just gets to hold mouse 1 and keeps swinging for the fence. 1 minute and 40 seconds remain for the Los Angeles Gladiators, and they've not done much to amass much of an ult bank. They switched compositions previously. They've not done nearly as much damage in these fights as Seoul, and they're staring down the barrel of Jaehong's Transcendence and Jex's Sound Barrier.
Yeah, I mean, when the Gladiators get these ultimates, the issue is they may just need to blow a bunch of them to get the payload moving, which doesn't force Seoul to do anything. They can hold on to them, come in, win the one fight they need to with about, 45 seconds to go, and hold them on defense.
Massive pick off though. Jexy goes down to Shaz. They're almost downrange. The Zen Sniper returns. Fisher somehow staying alive. Transcendence being committed and a lot of healing going his way. Now a Sound Barrier to keep the Gladiators topped up despite the self-destruct that was coming down, and it seems to have worked pretty well. Munchin by the wayside. Flutter booped around on the payload. Shaz to get the final blow there. And the Gladiators finally break through. But they will still have one more fight before they can access this last part of the map, before they can get that second checkpoint.
And it's kind of the situation I was saying that's lining up here. I mean, you have 40 seconds on the clock. They're going to be able to come out, get another fight. The Gladiators, though, they did end up holding on to some of their ultimates, so that's their saving grace. The Graviton Surge, the Transcendence, and the Self-Destruct. You could probably land a pretty nice grab coming out of here. They may not even be able to touch, and there it is.
Void now needs to combo with Self-Destruct with that grab as well as he possibly can, and it pays off! That's what he was looking for. It had to be a multi-kill or at least get some value out of it. And now the Gladiators know that they will get to continue playing the attack here. Holding onto those ultimates for Seoul seemed good, but a Sound Barrier wasn't going to save him from the grab bomb combo. The silver lining, of course, is that Fisher still has his Earth Shatter. It'll be much more deadly in this part of the map, but the Gladiators, they're happy to keep playing.
And it looks like, Fissure kind of had his shield up in position, but it looks like because the grab is up on the high ground, they kind of fall out of it at some point, so you can...
They get split.
The grab, yeah, and it just splits them off, and it ends up blowing a bunch of them up.
There will have been a Raw as well with the displacement caused by the Reinhardt swings, just as the Graviton expired, would have allowed them to be knocked away when they otherwise would have been held together.
You have to time that perfectly.
I don't think it was intentional, personally.
No, yeah, I don't think it was, but that is as good a timing as you could get if you're the Gladiators.
Ooh, a lot of damage onto the back line there of Seoul. Jackson, Jaehong looking worse for wear, and even Fisher are going to have to take a big step back. Earthshatter, big one! That's 3 down, but Raw himself is knocked to the ground, and with the Transcendence in play, there's not many opportunities for the Gladiators to capitalize on the fact the enemy team are all taking a brief at dirt sleep. We'll keep trying to push up here, though, and Seoul have a Graviton. Munchkin lets it go pretty much straight away. It wasn't eaten, but it doesn't really do all that much either. Now they're going to play a bit of a do-si-do around the truck, try and force the Dynasty into a bit of an enclosed space and get some splash damage there, but neither team really getting the better of one another now. The payload is rolling in the wrong direction for the Gladiators. They have to keep going.
Well, they know they have to push forward and take this fight and get some kills and then start to worry about the payload. The payload now starts to move. They try and take Flood out. As he had that rally active, they do it, but at the cost of losing Roar.
Hydration looking low, but that's a good Sound Barrier time, and the Gladiators still have 5 plays to work with Void. It's a self-destruct behind the pillar, so no one's going to really get affected by it. Michelle is still healthy enough while Big Goose is trying to boop and bop and do some damage. Fish is low. Nice work by Big Goose there to knock him forward away from his healers. Now the Transcendence are coming out from Jaehong with a self-destruct in over the top. Transcendence wouldn't have saved the Gladiators from that self-destruct, but no one was in line of sight of the explosion, so the Gladiators get to keep fighting. Flatter down, he went for the Bastion, it didn't quite pay off, and Michelle is knocked out of his mech on the payload. The Gladiators, they're finally broken through the breach they go, and they'll get themselves a map completion. Definitely more than they would have expected.
So they do complete it in overtime. Jaehong towards the end goes to the Bastion, trying to pick up some kills, but not enough for Seoul Dynasty to hold on.
Thank you, Brandon, for showing us the correct spelling of esports on your t-shirt. One of my favorites in my closet. Shields up, obviously, is what we're seeing mouthed out there in the crowd. And that's what they did, except they used them more as an offensive weapon to barge through.
I believe, Munchkin actually gets his grab eaten by Void towards the end there, yep. There you see, the icon now added to the kill feed.
Yeah, we can actually see that. God bless. The amount of people got to me goes, "Did you miss that grab on Route 66 4 weeks ago?"
You know
what? Probably did.
I gotta drive home you. You're looking for clips. You're freaking out.
That ain't me, fam. That ain't me. Yeah, cool, calm, collect.
Maybe. We'll now get a chance to see what the Gladiators decide to do on defense. We've seen some Bastion from some of the teams here today on Route 66.
Let's talk about that. What is obviously we saw Seoul try and use it more liberally. Rawhide. Is that we're talking about? Is that legit as far as you're concerned?
I don't think we have enough data here to be able to just take a look and see with Bastion to see if it's legit. I mean, look, in theory, it makes sense, right? they're going to play tanks that can't access the high ground. I'm going to put a hero who shred tanks up on the high ground, which they cannot access. In theory, it works. There's a lot of things that make sense in theory, but don't actually work once you go out there. So
Vice versa, to be honest. The Gladiators now will be on defense. The phrase shields up, never been more true now. They're trying to fight to stay in this series, take it to a 5th map, really make Soul work for it. We've got Flutter on the Ashe pick again. I'm quite excited to see this, obviously. Ashe, she's not super mobile, but you know, you kind of see her as like a midway between like a Widowmaker and a McCree kind of. She has that medium to long range.
They have a ton of just like AoE splash damage, right? When Ashe throws out the dynamite and it connects with a few players, it can become very deadly. Obviously, you know, coach gun, you know, to get out of harm's way, you know, and then you also have her primary weapon, which you can just lay down a ton of damage. Then you have Jayhawk now playing Junkrat, the rockets coming down from afar. Where do you even look here if you're the Gladiators?
That's a great question. I guess they realized that, you know, playing this triple tank, triple support comp, or as it may have been sort of, you know, 2 tank, we've seen Shawfall switch to Sombra now, doesn't quite play out so well when Soul have a lot of damage and the ability to finish kills. Ashe is there, of course, for Flutter, can get those pickoffs, make sure to secure kills. Jayhawk, of course, is, well, Riptide is pretty darn good, especially if he gets towards that in the next fight. So a lot of ways just to flatten these slower, tankier comps.
I think the thing I'm most impressed with Seoul Dynasty here today is just how they've been able to play, all their players have been able to play so many different heroes, and the hero switch is at the perfect time. Going to be there with a pulse bomb on a hydration. That's a really nice target to connect with. Now you don't have any, you know, I was going to say you don't have anybody to deal with him as a flanker. Big Goose though, Battle Lucio takes him out.
And that might have looked a little bit weird to you when you saw Brunchkin run, because he queued up the pulse bomb ability. He hit Q before he used his blink. So he sort of estimated that he knew where he'd end up, so he'd get his pulse bomb out quickly. He wouldn't be standing around using it. Riptide doesn't get anything done though. Void able to eat that one up, and then he actually finds its creator. The Junkrat is down. Michelle is in a position to still do damage. A beautiful direct hit. He was hitting some crazy ones over on Ilios earlier on. I think he's a little bit concerned about staying around for this fight, even though he has the barrage. He doesn't want eyes on him when he goes for the ultimate. A lot of damage from barrage, but also makes him very vulnerable.
Probably some changes here for Soul. So that is going to be a barrage back in the spawn. You're going to see everybody switch stuff. It's still very interesting that they opt to go to Ana instead of Zen a lot of the times with their 3 tank, 3 support.
I honestly believe it's because, I truly believe it's because, well, they only have 2 tanks, not 3. So I guess they're trying to break through these big bodies isn't as important.
But they do have D.Va there, though. So, I mean, you know, Ana can get her nade eaten up by the D.Va. You don't get a ton of value out of it. You can get dove on by Roar rather easily. And then Ana doesn't have as great of defensive capabilities as like a Zenyatta,
I mean,
so...
That's definitely a question as well
yeah.
for Danny, if he does get a chance to talk to Soul. We'll see what their thoughts are on that one. Also, no Jayhawk's Ana is just nasty.
Oh, you love to see Jayhawk's Ana, I mean.
So here's that prior fight. That was after the EMP went down, and Big Goose, no one doesn't like him, really. So the Gladiators now set up, and the payload has not made much progress. This is huge. A minute left, or under a minute left for Soul to actually get to this first checkpoint, and then we'll have a map 5 if they fail to do so. Hydration's gone down early, so Jayhawk really able to do a lot of work, as that Ana is definitely a bundle Ana if I've ever seen one. Michelle seems to be caught up by Big Goose there on that high ground, does get desuited. Jayhawk playing very close to his teammates here, knows he needs to be there, he needs to keep that healing coming. Okay, oh, he puts him to sleep, nicely done. Raw tries to charge in and gets incapacitated during Primal Rage. That's really going to take a lot of the sting out of what the Gladiators were able to clap back with.
Yeah, one of the things now with Nano Boost is you get that burst heal when you lay it down on a target, so you connect with somebody like Fissure, you bring him right back to full HP. They will do a ton of work, as you see he gets the effects of the Nano Boost. No fear goes right on in. Oh,
it's like you don't know him. What else would you expect? I'm sure Fissure would have been more than happy to put those to bed, and yes, that will be Soul getting that first checkpoint. So that's the first hurdle, you know, jumped over. Nano Boost, they're obviously doing a lot of work for Fissure. On his own, he was able to corral 3 of the Gladiators players away from the point.
Maybe the Ana answer is as simple as Fissure wants Nano Boost, and he just wants to go.
Well, if you think of Fissure, he's the kind of player that, like, would like a team to be able to play around him or essentially be built around him.
Yeah.
So Seoul have definitely had to change their structure, I would think, to integrate him effectively.
I would say it's worth it.
Yeah, I think so. He's definitely a player that you want to invest in. High economy, but he definitely gives higher returns. Flat out Graviton, straight into the corner of the payload. He's very hard to eat that one up as Diva. And the self-destruct in over the top. Oh, nicely done. Void actually does a one better. We didn't even see where that one came from, but very cute there. Raw jumps up in the air and keeps the shield aimed in the direction of the self-destruct from Michelle. Tell you what, they were caught off guard indeed by Void's self-destruct. Beautiful. Now the Gladiators again push forward, make them work for every inch. They've got 1 minute and 30 left to get to point B, or the second checkpoint. They want to make it costly.
Yeah, I mean, all the Gladiators just want to occupy space, force them to use some ultimates, and
That's why we didn't see it. It was so high up. And I still managed to catch them out. Brutal. For Seoul right now, they don't really have a huge ultimate presence in this next fight outside of that Transcendence. Munchkin also has Rally if he wants to use it, but still Shortfall gets picked off. His grab got eaten as well. That is a horrible start to the fight for the Gladiators. They should have won that one out comfortably, but now no Gravid losing their Zarya. Munchkin can press forward. Fisher now has an Earth Shatter, and Munchkin, of course, the Rally is going to be used straight away. That could have gone so well for the Gladiators. In fact, it should have by the books.
yeah. Well, when the grab gets eaten, it puts everybody in a tough position because you're planning on following up with a lot of damage for the
You're on
rest
the
of your
front
team.
foot, right?
So when you go in with the intent to use the grab and then follow up damage, you throw the grab, it gets eaten, and now everybody's standing right in front of them with no way to be able to put down all that damage to the CC'd opponents.
The Dynasty getting a bit of a freebie in that last fight. Michelle did a fantastic job to eat the grab itself. Well, we know what Fisher wants.
Big slam.
Pretty much just one thing. I know it's disgusting. He's looking for an Earth Shatter here. Raw actually went for his one there. It doesn't really seem like he got too much out of it there. He used sort of out of frame, and now Fisher wants to push forward. Flatter also has himself a Graviton Surge. He just needs to be wary of Void's presence. Here's the grab. Hydration goes down, and Raw was caught inside there on the Transcendence. Was just a little bit too late from Shaz. The self-destruct over the top doesn't achieve much. Void does not find any Seoul Dynasty players unshielded or in line of sight. And with Shaz going down now, this is when you're starting to sweat as a Gladiators fan and player. Seoul are knocking on your door, and they're coming for the crowd.
They still have a ways to go here, Mitch, though. They're going to be able to take the second point, now work their way towards the completion of the map, but only 1 minute and 20 to go. This is a really difficult part of the map to move past on Route 66. Although it did, although they do not get the hold there, the Gladiators still in a good position.
Okay, I like that early grab, and this should be able to win them the fight if they keep pressing forward and they don't get too greedy. Michelle and Fisher put up against the wall and removed. And that was just a brief opening. Shortfall did well to identify. It was, well, you just should hit Q.
I mean, look, you play the long game now, right? 57 seconds, you move up, you take space. This is going to, it puts Seoul against the clock. They need to use ultimates to get the payload moving to beat the clock. If they don't use the ultimates, then they just kind of get in this stalemate where the Gladiators build theirs back up, and they're going to end up holding. But they want to use these ultimates, start moving the payload. The issue is the Gladiators will hold theirs, come back with one fight where they have a bunch and just wipe the floor with them.
Both Reinhardt shields are very low. Both of these Reinhardts are going to have to go in swinging, and it's a sound barrier from the Gladiators to try and dissuade any further aggression. But the Dynasty aren't having it. They want to push forward, especially with Michelle's self-destruct catching Shaz, and now Raw being down. Fisher knows there'd be no shield to block the Earth Shatter, even if he wanted to use it in this fight, but he'll save it. The payload was being stalled a little bit in the background, but now they'll be on the road. 10 seconds left until they're in overtime.
Yeah, big ultimates here for the Gladiators in this next fight. I think if you see them use a ton and they don't win it, that's where you really start to bash the panic button. You have Rally, Transcendence, you're gonna have a Graviton Surge, a big self-destruct coming out of the Gladiators.
Now, this is where they win this map and take it to map 5. The Gladiators, that's what they're looking to do. They're close to a Graviton Surge for sure. He'll play up on the high ground for the time being. He's not charged up right now. He's not going to be doing a lot of damage. He goes for a personal bubble there just to get a bit of extra charge. Oh, that's so cheeky. He sends one in long range here, but it's going to be a sound barrier now coming out from the Dynasty to keep themselves alive, but Flatter still went down to the self-destruct anyway. Munchkin pushing forward with the Transcendence. It's a very timely one. Fisher tries to go for an Earth Shatter, but Raw's standing in his way, and he blocks it completely. Now the tables may have turned, though, as the Transcendence from Jaehong puts the Dynasty in the driver's seat and puts Raw 6 feet under. Fisher forced to back up. He has a Discord orb on him right now, so he doesn't want to drop his shield. He needs to get that health back before he goes in again, and that's a self-destruct sent into the back corner to no effect.
Yeah, they just needed the self-destruct to buy them some space. They spread out some of the players, getting the effects of the rally from the Gladiators, and Seoul Dynasty now fighting at full strength yet again.
Shatter comes in once again, an attempt from Raw to end things. It doesn't work out. Fisher has one of his own now. The Reinhardt's really taking center stage in this fight as key shifters. Void thought he'd be hit by that one, but he was stunned out of it. Fisher couldn't get the Earthshatter off either. Neither Ryan finding success with their ultimate abilities. And another self-destruct in the back corner from Void, not finding a target either. Late Graviton Surge, will it be enough? Void's trying to work from the outside, but now with the Transcendence in place, Soul is so durable, they're so healthy, they're frolicking through the meadow, and the Gladiators now are walking through purgatory. Couple scant meters left. Soul have done it. They finished the map, which means there's more to come, which means they ain't done yet. Oh, you love to see it with a draw. Oh, man. Both teams ran low on time. We're still going to go back in, of course, at 2-1. Both teams will have a minute left. And that's how it will stand. They'll have to try and get as far as they can.
At one point, like everybody, because I like to watch the mini-map during a lot of these fights, and you know, it's crazy. People are everywhere. And the one thing I realized is Seoul Dynasty, they're all stuck in a Graviton Surge, right? There's one player who's not in it, and it's Michelle outside of his Diva mech, and he's like trying to 1v1 Sherfor, and he puts down enough damage to get his mech back and fly back into the fight. Oh man, those type of plays are just unreal. And you know, those fights obviously like feel like so long for us, and they're back and forth, back and forth. I can't imagine like playing in something like that and just the momentum shift of like your emotions as a player. Like, okay, we have the fight. It's like, oh, now we're losing the fight, and then this player's coming off spawn, and we're back in it. It's got to be.
Yes. So in hindsight, if you're watching the fights and going, it's hard to say who's winning here. We're in the same position as casters, and the players are actually in very similar positions as well. Those sort of overtime scenarios, teams are just investing all of their resources and throwing themselves at each other to try and get an edge. So now both teams, 1 minute left. It's who can get the farthest. And, you know, for this, we might see teams play very close. Seoul trying to emulate the Gladiators in that very close-up defense they attempted.
I mean,
see how long it can work for.
You play this close. If you lose this fight, you know you're going to get maybe 2 more, at least 1 for sure. So
winning the first fight in overtimes like this definitely guarantees you a bit of extra distance because of that old percentage.
Well, and the time's obviously going down as well, right? So all it takes is like a Graviton Surge. You move like 2 or 3 players off the payload. Overtime, no wick burns down, and that's it.
Soul around here. They're going to have to go once more with 20 seconds left. So the Gladiators here can still quite easily get even that first checkpoint. We've seen teams finish the map in overtime here.
This is actually bad. If you're going to die, everybody die at the same time. Don't lose players 1 by 1. Now you're going to wait at least for Fleta to come back from the spawn. So maybe you'll get a Lucio taxi and get him right back in. But see Fisher up on the high ground. He's the only one there right now. He's got to wait for the rest of the squad.
Soul do have 1 more fight. They're grouping up right now behind that gate. But what do they really have to work with? Shaz has a Transcendence, so in theory, if Seoul Dynasty try and engage directly, it could be quite a wash fight. Oh, calm down, everyone, I know. Sure4 with the Graviton Surge. He just left that one go, and it is not eaten up. However, Jayhawk managed to get his Transcendence just in time to keep his team alive through that. And Seoul now have a chance to fight back themselves. Shaz, well, you see him just backing past his teammates. I don't want to be in the front line anymore. Self-destruct over the top once more. This time again, Munchkin, even getting 1 kill with that ultimate, man, is so huge here.
And I mean, Fisher can't look to the sky right away. He has to be a little bit patient there. You see Roar sending Michelle all the way back. The Gladiators should be able to take point 1.
And they have done it, still in overtime. The Gladiators are on the road. I saw Big Goose there as well, just dry his hands off. You can see he's definitely feeling the pressure.
And I mean, it's a big fight for the Gladiators as well, because you mentioned, you know, how Jahan got his Transcendence towards the end. Look at Shaz, ends up staying alive. You're going to have another Transcendence. And I don't know if Seoul Dynasty expects that. Maybe they think they're going to land this free grab from Fleta and just end up taking it, but Shaz is going to have Transcendence. You have Sound Barrier and Rally as well.
And we're in overtime now, so if any events the Gladiators leave or are pushed off the payload, the round will end there. That was kind of risky. You could see how the Dynasty are trying to push them off, but it's not really working. Jexa and Fisher are down. Fleta's like, oh, I cannot commit my Graviton Surge to a fight that we're already 2 players down in. And so the Gladiators will get to continue.
It's a really nice positioning from Void. Void's actually set up on that bridge right where you see Roar looking at. And when Fleta comes underneath the bridge, he kind of knows that Void's directly above him, ready to just defense matrix down and just kind of swoop in, eat that Graviton Surge. So He doesn't feel comfortable using it. Sureborn may actually use this grab and lock everybody up in that top door.
Just on the bottom part, it's impossible to eat it if he lays it off there. He's just trying to see where people move to. He's not charged, he doesn't get caught out. He can get away, he's got his own bubble here. But he wants to gain some charge, and he got very little from his own bubble. Here's the Transcendence how to start this fight, and it's gotta have to be a sound barrier from the Gladiators. They use it immediately to keep them topped up. Oh, Michelle gets Shawfall there, but it's traded out. Munchkin goes down. Shawfall's Graviton now, just a thing of the past, and Void looking pretty average right now. It's one of the few players up on the payload. Raw finally arrives back to the fight, but Fisher knocks him right on his behind. Orders him to take a seat. The Gladiators are finally halted. But that is quite a push. I'll be happy with that.
That's a very strong push, at least in my opinion here, is that they're able to take the first point and then push all the way, probably about 75% to getting, that 50th point. Sign. The Seoul Dynasty will have to match that with only a minute on the clock. It becomes a tough situation for Seoul as well, because what does the Gladiators decide to do? Do they decide to do something a little bit cheeky on the defensive end? Because really one push. You come out with 3 tanks, 3 supports with a Ryan, let's say, and you try and fight that first fight, and they're running that Bastion on the other side, like, you're already now staring down the battle of 30 seconds on the clock, probably after that fight ends.
Yeah, if you're
everybody
trying to play
dies.
something standard, right, and you just get completely embarrassed.
And then you have to switch, so you reset any type of ultimate build-up you would have had. So I think it's just kind of a guessing game. Like, what do you think the Gladiators do? Do they play something standard? Do they play something a little wacky?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm feeling the Route 66 trap remix. All about it. The Dynasty, we won't know what they're gonna be playing until they push out a spawn. We know where the Gladiators are going with you, and they're going with a standard comp. So, yeah, as you sort of speculated, Matt, will they go with some Bastion, some wacky business to try and catch Seoul off guard? Looks like they're being very sensible here for a team that is more likely than most to go for something wacky and crazy. So Seoul will come out of the gates here again with a very similar team comp, and it will be a war of attrition over this payload to get it moving.
See if Seoul has an idea that the Gladiators are playing this close. Obviously now they see them come out of the train car, so can they break this setup a little bit faster? The Gladiators, it took them a little bit to get going here at the beginning as, oh, that's a big kill. Roar drops. This is huge for Seoul, Mitch.
I mean, as soon as the Reinhardt goes down, the entirety of the Gladiators are completely exposed, especially to Fleta, who will be very charged up at this part of the fight. He would have prevented a lot of damage with his projector bubble and his own personal shield. So that, particle cannon is really revved up. When the Reinhardt's gone, it's going to be looking very, very bad. Now, Seoul, good. They get a better start than they were perhaps expecting here against the Gladiators. They're close to a Transcendence. The support ults are looking good here for Seoul.
I mean, Jaehong essentially, doubled up Shaz in terms of building towards that Transcendence. He's got it now, ready to use. You're going to have to keep Fissure alive. That's really what it's about.
Seoul cannot leave the payload as overtime has begun. They need to stick to it like glue. Just keep one player there, that's fine, but if that one player leaves, that overtime bar is going to disappear very quickly. The longer you stay on the payload, the longer overtime goes, the quicker the bar will dissipate if no one is present. Fisher, he's not swinging, he's looking for an Earth Shatter. He almost goes down though. He gets to stay alive. He knows he needs to get rid of hydration. Great Discord Orb placement by Jaehong. They got the Brigitte early on. Fisher receives one of his own, so he just charges out there. He says, I don't want to be a part of this. Matt, Seoul are not having to use ultimates in this fight. They're not being forced to invest heavily.
No. Just Transcendence in their rally. And they're able to hold on. It's another big fight win for Seoul Dynasty, as it is, the Gladiators do just need like one quick, get them off the cart.
And they haven't used many ultimates of their own, to be fair.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if the moment the Gladiators sort of lost that first pick, they said, okay, no one press Q. So they put themselves in a spot now where they're not super behind the 8 ball.
Well, what the Gladiators could do is they get engaged with, like, let's say, a sound barrier. They're going to use that grab off the bat. Shatter comes out from both sides.
Self-destruct. Seoul looking a little bit worse for wear right now, but the Transcendence is in play. Self-destruct coming through from Michelle and the sound barrier now on the Gladiators. Michelle gets 2! Just what the doctor ordered. Take 2 and call me in the morning. It's going to be Void now desuited and removed. Seoul had to win that fight, but there may still be one more to go. The Gladiators engaged that fight much closer on this part of the map than Seoul opted to do on their defense.
And how fitting this could come down to Roar versus Fissure, Shatter on Shatter, right? Those ultimates, you got the rally probably on the board here for Munchkin, but you look across the board, that really may just be about it here at the end.
See how the Gladiators set up. Oh, the tension, I can feel it. Shaz sitting right at the back. Can't afford to give up his life. If he somehow gets a Transcendence in this fight, it would be huge. Fisher looking for the shatter here. He is booped up vertically, and that's an opportunity, but still possible. He gets the reverse shatter. Just when the Gladiators thought they could push in to get the job done, he gets the Earth shatter, and the Gladiators were not shielded. They were not ready for Fisher to turn around like that. And on that note, the Seoul Dynasty start the 2019 Overwatch League season with a nail-biter victory over the hometown heroes, the Los Angeles Gladiators. And you're right, Matt, it came down to a shatter-off between Fisher and Raw.
And I tell you what, Roar got a pretty good one off. It was a really nice boot to get Fisher up
But
in
he
the sky.
didn't get Fisher with it.
And then Fisher just lands and he turns and the counter shatter. At that moment, the Gladiators probably think they won. They lay out the huge shatter, they start to move forward. Oh, what a play.
It was so scripted. You know, they walked into that fight with the right hand ultimates being the only things present there, and you have to say, fantastic presence of mind. I have to say it would have been from Big Goose to boot Fisher away or vertically up, so he couldn't have shielded his team to protect them from Raw's shatter. I guess the only weakness to Raw's plan was that they didn't deal with the catalyst, the X factor. And Fisher was able to turn around and end the game right there, and then you love it when Overwatch comes down to those huge moments like that. And I'm sure we've heard a lot from Fisher, Matt, in the lead up to this match, through the turmoil of last season, obviously, with his tenure on the Gladiators, their ups and downs, moving to Seoul now. Let's hear from the man himself, though. Danny's down on the floor with Fisher.
What is up, everybody? I am here with the player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP, Fisher from Seoul Dynasty. Woo! Fisher, congratulations on the win. Now, you just pulled off an amazing victory against your previous team, LA Gladiators. How does that feel? What does that mean to you? 자, 전 팀인 이제 글래디와의 경쟁에서 이 우승을 하셨는데 이게 또 피셔 선수에게는 어떤 의미가 있나요?
사실 글래디가 이제 제 전 팀이다 보니까 뭐 많은 분들이 이제 제가 런던한테 해왔던 그런 뭐 저를 후회할 거냐, 판거를 후회할 거냐 뭐 이런 식으로 얘기를 하지 않을 거고요. 저 글래디가 이제 저한테 제가 끝나기 때 스테이지가 끝나고 시즌 끝났을 때 글래디가 저한테 해줬던 그런 모든 혜택들이 웬만한 팀들보다 가장 최고의 대우로 저를 받쳐줬다고 생각해서 글래디한테 이렇게 적이 돼가지고 정말 아쉽지만은 멋진 경기 해가지고 정말 기분 좋습니다.
So to put it simply, I don't really have anything against the LA Gladiators. The promise that LA Gladiators had for me after last season, they really pulled through, and it was an amazing promise, an amazing agreement that we had. So it's kind of unfortunate that I had to face against them, our previous team, for our first matchup of the season, but I'm very happy that I won today. All right, cool. Thank you so much. Next question, one more question. This one is a fun one. Do you believe, Fisher, that you are the best main tank in the Overwatch League? 자, 피셔 선수, 자기 자신이 최고의 메인 탱커라고 확신하십니까?
Nobody.
Nobody else. Alrighty, that's all I have. Everybody, let's get back to the casters.
Thank you very much for that, Danny and Fisher. I mean, how is he supposed to drop the mic if you don't give him the mic? This is what's going through Fisher's head right now. He's been around here long enough to know how that normally works, but I mean, look, we know the split between him and the Gladiators was quite amicable at the end. You know, like a lot of friendly words have been exchanged, and both parties going their own separate ways. But Seoul are going this way, and for this first match, the Gladiators not that way.
Look, I think this is a match between two very strong teams. I expect these teams to be there at the end of the season, right? I think at least for me personally, I was a little up and down on Seoul. I was like, I don't really know where you can kind of grade them. I was actually extremely impressed with their versatility as a whole throughout the match. They were playing a lot of different things. A lot of Munchkin would play like Zarya at one point, then Fleta's now playing Brig, and then they wanted Munchkin on something else, so Fleta's now playing Zarya. A lot of interchangeable parts here. I really like that.
I'm really happy with the way Michelle has shaped up.
Yes.
Coming into this lineup, we've seen some, very, very solid D.Va play, but also his ability to flex on to multitude of different heroes. I mean, that second half of the match, when we really started to realize that map 1 was maybe a little bit of a red herring in terms of what Seoul were able to put out. Horizon is where it started for map 3, and Seoul were dominant.
Yeah, and I think if the Gladiators could probably have one map back, I think it's probably this one. I think actually, on Route 66, they probably played 2 percentages, probably what you could have done to win the game. I think this is the one, though, probably gave this one away. The sick clips there from Roar end up not paying off here, as I know they came out with the Reaper. The Reaper, we were up and down about how he's effective right now in the meta, but I think in these types of situations where you have to get one tick pretty much on a point and it's a close quarter area, I think he can be very effective.
How about Route 66? Soul start with this sort of cheesy Bastion set up there, and the Gladiators initially struggled to make progress, but they start to pick up speed towards the end of their attacking round.
You see that sick Diva bomb that came down from Void right
It
as
looked
that
like
grab.
the displacement was because of the Reinhardt swing, but it's a little bit hard to tell.
It's a combination of like the Reinhardt swing and then the grab being gone, right? Just kind of like puts you in a weird position as you see Fissure getting the effects of the nano boost. They thought Jaehong, going from Ana to Zen time and time again. They thought that was actually, a pretty big impact. As sometimes when you didn't have, didn't know he was going to get the Zen ult in time, you would go over the Ana, you get those big grenades, the nano boost as well. But this play at the end, you'd see he's gonna get launched up in the sky here. Everybody's down and
Not on my watch. I mean, he doesn't get Void, but he gets Hydration Shaz, Big Goose, Brawl there.
He gets more than enough.
Fantastic. And if you're looking for a playmaker, if you're looking for an individual to make the difference in moments like that, it's your boy Fissure. Fantastic performance and well-deserved, of course, as a player.
If we move away from 3 tanks, 3 supports, we're gonna have to reset the stats database here. We got tanks putting up like 50k damage in a match, man. But you see Fissure 100 limbs, only 18 deaths in the course of the match on Reinhardt. Those are big numbers.
I mean, with the 3 tanks, 3 supports, or even sort of 3 supports with 2 tanks, a lot of emphasis is still being put on that Reinhardt to be a damage dealer. So this suits Fissure quite well. When you think about previous compositions over last season that he played in, where maybe we saw some dive, we saw a couple of different permutations that use either Reinhardt or Winston. No other composition really centers on Reinhardt's ability to do damage and to make plays than this triple tank and triple support setup. You can throw a Sombra in there for one of your tanks as well, still make an impact. I like the fact that this is kind of what we saw from the Gladiators, what they've been ruminating on over the last couple of weeks. Try to get as much value as you can out of that Sombra. Try and connect these EMPs, get those hacks in at the right time. But we saw Surefour trying to play that Sombra. He was only fulfilling the utility role. He was not contributing to eliminations very much in terms of doing pure damage. And when you have that Sombra in your lineup, you require the rest of your tanks to pick up the slack and do the work.
Yeah, we also mentioned, Void played the entire series tonight. Bishu may have been sick. Don't know how that changes their game plan, right, moving forward. Bishu was such a key part of the Gladiators last season. Him and Fissure really made a strong tank lane. Void's actually a really strong Diva, obviously Zarya as well. But you don't know, how they've practiced up until this point, if they've had some sets with Bishu involved with some of these maps. They just were not able to execute them tonight.
Yeah, we'll definitely hear from them down the track. There's no doubt about it. But coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, a match I think many of you have been waiting a long time for. The Shanghai Dragons will take on the Hangzhou Spark. Right after this one, the Dragons are still searching for victory here. The Spark looking to stop them. Don't miss it. It's going to be a spicy one. We'll see you after the break.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. High ground or low ground, T-Mobile has you covered.